Hello everybody, this is Kiana and I want to do a continuation of the video that I published yesterday that was on transnational repression in the Northern Ireland. And I kind of want to break things down bit by bit. So in that video, I stopped short of talking about mental illness. And I did that because I shouldn't have to continue to explain myself about my own personal story and the things that I'm going through and what other people may be going through as well. And I feel like it's just beating, the issue over and over and over. And regardless of what I say, of course, you're probably not, there are going to be some people that are not going to take my word for it, or maybe they will take my word for it. We don't know. So I'm not going to beat that issue and continue to rehash it and explain about it and open it up and peel back the layers of that particular issue, because I'm going to save all of the information that I have and all of the knowledge that I have and all of the evidence that I have for people that are really going to listen to me. So I have gone to several places here in Belfast and even in the Republic of Ireland, and they have asked me to produce evidence. But on the surface level, I could feel intuitively that these people were not actually working in my best interest. This is just an intuitive feeling that sometimes you get, where you know that you're that a person is really not going to be supporting your cause. Like, for example, there has been situations where I've gone to seek legal assistance and they told me they can't represent me, but they wanted me to actually give them all the evidence. So if you don't want to represent me, then there's no need for you to have the evidence. It's plain and simple. What good would that evidence do you if you're not going to represent me? I will tell you my case, and from there you make the decision on whether or not you are interested in taking such a case on. And then that's when I show you all the evidence that I have. But it doesn't work that you're not taking my case on, or you're not going to publish my story, and then I'm going to send you a bunch of evidence. No, it does not work that way. So again, I stopped short of talking about mental illness. I didn't talk about the Zaru effect. I didn't talk about the state-sponsored radicalization theory. I didn't talk about state-sponsored violence, nor did I talk about any other theories in that video, because I've already talked about that, and I could continue to go into that, and of course I probably will in the future. But that video was just a story time, so you can understand in real time what had happened without any theories or education behind it. You just understood, okay, and for you to judge for yourself off of what happened just by me giving you the facts without supporting it with theories and concepts, for you to take what you need from that and make a decision yourself. Now, I am going to clarify a lot of things in this video, and that may or may not help. That may make things worse. That may make things better. It may not do anything at all. But I want to clarify things one more time. And it's not my responsibility to educate people on the law and to educate people on human rights, because this is, if I'm going to a law firm and they are the professionals, they should already understand exactly what what the law is on human rights. And it's not my job to explore that in a 5-minute interview. It's not my job to try and explain or to break it down in just a 5-minute interview. It's just not. And what I mean by that is that if my rights are being violated, all I have to articulate is, hey, I am an asylum seeker. I am residing in Northern Ireland, and I have had a violation of my Article 3, my Article 8, and my Article 10 right. And I'm looking for legal representation. And it's from that point on whether or not a solicitor is interested in speaking to me. And they may ask, well, how is your Article 10 and your Article 8 and your Article 3 right being violated? Well, my Article 3 right is being violated because I was subjected to degrading treatment and punishment, and I was debased while I was in the Republic of Ireland's direct provision institution. At the same time, I had my right to privacy violated extensively, and my freedom of speech, my right to freedom of expression is being violated through my publishing a blog, my social media accounts, etc. And when you tie in together, okay, this is one, a Black American, two, she is a Black American, she is an activist, a human rights defender, she is blogging about these particular issues, and she is being silenced abroad for doing that. To a person, for a person who understands the nuances of the U.S. government, they will automatically understand. There's not going to be, why would they do that to you? No, they will understand, because if you are an American citizen, you know exactly that the U.S. government, and I'm sure the Republic of Ireland, just living there and hearing stories, that there is a lot of anti-Black sentiment in these countries. Further, there is this notion that because I blog about and I tweet about things that are happening to my race, that I am the aggressor. Oh my God, I'm so exhausted over that. I would be silly to ignore all of the things and to close my eyes to everything that is happening to Black Americans in the United States. I would be silly to ignore mass incarceration. I would be silly to ignore the multiple gun-related incidents that are affecting African Americans in inner cities, and those weapons that are being pushed into those neighborhoods. I would be silly to ignore the U.S. government's use of drapetomania, rebranding of it, the U.S. government's treatment of MLK, the FBI's treatment of MLK, that is named, so we have the Hoover building, of course, that is named after one of the person that was so cruel to MLK, and a lot of Black activists, and these practices are still taking place. That history is still, we are still being affected, of course, by that history. And United States is still carrying out that harmful legacy against Black Americans in the United States. And as a Black person who was harmed in the United States by US authorities, I would definitely be I'm just going to say I wouldn't be myself. I would be removed from myself if I didn't acknowledge that, and that if I closed my eyes to that. Now, I'm not going to be engaging in any violence because I just don't think that that is the way to solve problems. But what's happening is that authority figures are what the authority figures are doing is that there is a continuation of trying to set up traps to make me fall into behavior that is violent. So one, authority figures are stopping me from accessing services. Specifically, the specific service that they're stopping me from accessing is my access to the courts and being able to file a human rights complaint against the treatment that I suffered in the Republic of Ireland. And they may say, well, oh, she's doing this because it's about money. No, what this is about is that you violated my rights and you haven't made amends for that. One, you haven't acknowledged that you did that. Two, you continue to do that. So because you are continuing to do that, I am still in my victim status. I am still considered a victim because you haven't stopped. And three, you have blocked my access to the courts in the Republic of Ireland. You blocked my access to reaching the European Court of Human Rights. You blocked my access to talking to attorneys in Northern Ireland. So, yes, I am going to continue to try and reach for justice at every turn. And you can put traps in my path if you want to. You can do this, you can do that, you can do this, you can do that. But that's not going to stop me at all. And I'm not going to handle this like a violent person. I'm not going to engage in violence. I'm just going to take it through the courts. That's what I'm going to do. And that's what they're so afraid of, because in the courts, they know that in local courts, they know that they can move the goalpost and influence judges and influence, local people to continue to deprive certain people of their rights by whispering in their ear and telling them a lot of negative things. But I believe it's different with the European Union and the European Court of Human Rights. I believe that this is a court of justice. This is a court that we don't have in the United States. We don't have a court of justice in the United States. So, clarification one. Am I going to be engaging in violence if they continue to oppress me and to continue to set these traps up for me? No. Do I know that people are giving incentives to take advantage of me and to make me look like a horrible person? Yes, I know that. Am I going to continue to talk to those people? Yes, because it's important for me to understand the ideology behind the people that are helping authority figures terminate my rights and that are actively doing that. Do I hate immigrants? No. This is an absurd thing. It's absurd to think that I would dislike the very essence of who I am. I am an asylum seeker. I'm an immigrant in a foreign country. It's absurd to carry out the belief that I dislike immigrants. I'm an immigrant. That would mean that I dislike myself, and I love myself. So the answer to that question is no. I love the immigrants around me. But just because I love the immigrants around me and just because I love refugees and asylum seekers doesn't mean that I don't have to be critical of their behavior. For example, that doesn't mean that I have to close my eyes to destructive behaviors that they're engaging in to support my country's narrative that Black Americans are violent and aggressive. For example, when I was in the Republic of Ireland, I knew that my country, if not my country, the Republic of Ireland, had a group of men that were asylum seekers to engage in a very destructive practice to try and push me out of the asylum system. Do I hate Islamic people? Do I dislike Islamic people? No, I do not. That is absurd. I've been in relationships with Islamic men, Muslim men, and I care very deeply about those people. And those relationships didn't work out. They just didn't work out. Like all relations sometimes don't. We live in a world where people, they get into relationships and they just don't work out. They just don't work out. You have irreconcilable differences and two people grow apart, or two people were never meant to be together, and the relationship just doesn't work. Would I date another Muslim man in the future? Maybe if the right one came along. Do I hate white people? No. I don't hate white people. That's absurd. I've dated a lot of white people in my life and have grown close to a lot of white people in my life. But that doesn't mean that I need to close my eyes to situations that are happening to my own people. For example, when you, ladies and gentlemen, authority figures want you to be radicalized and they want you to have an extremist ideology. You're either very on the left of the aisle or you're either on the right of the aisle. There is no in between. There is no non-binary, or there is no middle. There is no fluidity into your political beliefs. And that is what makes the authority figures dislike me so much, is because there is so much fluidity in my beliefs. I'm not an extreme person. I can see what's happening on the left and I can see what's happening on the right. And I can agree with some things and I can disagree with the others. So what authority figures want us to do is they want us to, if you're a Black person, you're either so far on the left, or if you ever support anything on the right, you have to be a Candace Owens, or you have to be a Tim Scott. You have to be these individuals that have removed themselves from their communities. You have to be, and I'm not going to be these people. I respect those who respect me. I care for those who care for me. And I love those who love me. And if there is harm happening to my people in my country, that is something that I am a person that I'm not going to close my eyes to. I'm going to acknowledge it. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to blog about it because I'm a human rights defender. My job as a human rights defender is not to take on my shoulder the world's problems. It's only to take on the problems that I connect to. So for example, I'm not going to talk about climate change because I'm not a climate activist. So if I'm scrolling on my phone and there's things about climate change, I might not even talk about it or comment on it or like it. Although I may support their endeavors, I am not a climate activist. And there's a lot of activisms that I am not a part of because my journey is about how Black Americans are being treated in the United States. And that does not make me a horrible person because I don't want Blacks to be mistreated. And that's how authority figures are treating me today, because I am trying to bring stability and justice for the disproportionate representation of Black Americans in the criminal justice system, the disproportionate representation of Black people that have been affected by gun violence, police brutality, discrimination, racism in the United States. And I'm being made to look at, made to be a bad person because I'm engaging in this kind of activism. And all it takes is for these places to sit down and have a discussion with me and to see the evidence that I have compiled over the years. And I haven't uploaded any of that evidence online at all. And the reason I haven't done so is because I want to be able to connect with a person. And I want to see that person truly advocating in my corner, just as I would advocate in their corner. And then I think that we can start to make change that is not destructive, that is constructive. We can start making change that uplifts not only ourselves, but uplifts others. So again, there's a lot that I talk about throughout this journey of speaking on my experiences as a human rights defender. I've talked about how the United States is rebranding the issue drapetomania, and of course we know what that is. That is this pseudoscience where Samuel A. Cartwright hypothesized that African Americans who fled their captivity must have been suffering from a mental illness because they first complained about being in captivity, two, they escaped their captivity and their enslavement. And what happened is that you had an authority figure, well, not an authority figure, but a slaveholder that would, behind the scenes or even, in front of the enslaved person, the abused, would argue that this abused person is suffering from a mental illness because they don't want to be captive, they don't want to be enslaved, they don't want to be in bondage. And the U.S. is doing the same thing today to Black Americans who file claims abroad. They are rebranding this drapetomania. It's happening all over again. There is a lot of things that are from that era that are making an appearance and reprising its role today. And that's just the truth. Drapetomania is coming back. The US government is still using it. And the protest psychosis, that is in full effect. And basically what this is that when Black Americans are activists and civil rights leaders, what happens is that government officials will say that that person is suffering from a mental illness because of their beliefs and because of their activism. And essentially what the government is doing is putting into place situations and events and programs that mimic to others, it's a smokescreen of psychosis so that we don't have to deal with the real issue, is that rights are being violated. And this is what this whole thing is about. It's a smokescreen for authority figures to claim that Black people from the United States are mentally ill, that they are suffering from the worst of the worst, so they can continue to isolate them, to facilitate abuse, stop people from actually listening to their stories, deprives them of epistemic justice, deprive them of reaching the goalpost, deprive them of structures that are solid and that cannot be uprooted. This is how the US government works. It is not a government that likes African Americans. It is a government that really dislikes African Americans. This is a government that really, really has it in for the African American, the Black American community. It's always been this way. And it hurts me that my country feels this way about people like me. It really does. I'm so hurt by it. Now, yeah, we have people like Kamala Harris and a lot of these public officials that are in office. But make no mistake about it, most of these people within the US government, they do not like Black Americans. And if they did, if they really cared about Black Americans, would they be doing what they're doing today is the question. And when we're talking about transnational repression, they're trying to flip the script to say that, you know, a Black person, their ideas are too extreme, or they're violent, or they're engaging in the criminality XYZ. But really, again, this is a smokescreen to take our attention away from their own crimes against humanity, their own crimes against aggression, their own crimes of genocide, their own crimes of torture and abuse. It's to take our eyes away from that. And a lot of people, their eyes will be taken away from that. Their eyes will be, you know, drawn away from that. They're not going to pay attention to that. And they're going to say, okay, let's pay attention to this, because we have this person in authority telling us A, B, and C. That's authority bias. Is when we rely on everything that an authority figure says without even fact checking it and without actually interrogating those facts against other facts. So basically, we have a set of facts here from the authority figure, and all we're doing is we're looking at these facts from the authority figure. Howsoever, there is a different set of facts here, and we don't want to look at these facts because we are so conditioned to rely on these facts over here. And it's a confirmation bias. You know, okay, we're reading these facts. Okay, this is confirming what we really felt about this person here. But if we actually took time to read these facts that are over here and to really compare them to the facts that are over here, we would see that there are some major discrepancies in what the authority figures are telling us. But it takes strong people, strong-minded people to do that. And people they have to want to do it. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't. And that is a troubling reality, to say the least.